if you've just joined us, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, with me, Sharaad Kuttan. In the past week or so, we've heard news of several hotels around the country closing down due to the MCO. Just how bad is the situation for the hospitality industry? Let's find out with Halim Merican, Acting President of the Malaysian Association of Hotels. Halim, good evening. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Melisa. Good evening.
So, Halim, just a few hours ago, I read news that one of the oldest hotels in Ipoh, the Shuen Hotel, is the latest to permanently shut its doors. Now, can we start the conversation with, establishing some of the basic facts? How many hotels in Malaysia have had to close permanently due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. Basically, before I start, I would like to just, first of all, explain that tourism, comprises of several stakeholders. So, hotel is one of them. Yeah. So it's and tourism is known to be the second largest income earner for the country, right? So when a pandemic like this happens, and it's an unprecedented one, it's a situation where hotels go into a very difficult situation. Yeah. And we, as the Malaysian Association of Hotels, what we've done is when the first MCO was announced on 18th of March, we had done a very quick survey among our members, and we had about close to 500 of our members. In total, Malaysian Association of Hotels have about 1,200 members, and about 50% of them reverted. And the findings at that point, when we spoke to them about the loss of business or cancellations that they've received for the period of April, May, June, the amount potentially that will be lost from this pandemic stood at about 3.3%. 3.3 billion, yeah? And last week, we did a second survey, and the numbers have doubled. We're looking at about 6.4 billion in potential loss. And I can guarantee you that these numbers will still escalate. It will still go up. Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of the current situation that we're looking at, before we talk about hotels closing down, we have to also consider the fact that why are they closing down? Yeah. And of course, it's about the fixed costs that hotels have. And this includes things like the utilities, manpower, salary, which is the biggest chunk of the cost for any hotel operation. A hotel, to break even, generally they have to make approximately 40% occupancy. And that's just to break even.
Sorry, did you say 40%?
40% of occupancy. That would just be break even, yeah? Okay. And what we have gathered from our survey for the first 3 months and then our second survey right up to the end of the year, what we have gathered is the hotel industry will be looking in the area of only averaging about 25% occupancy for the whole year of 2020.
Right, Halim, can I ask you the distinction between hotels that have closed permanently, those that are closing until the end of the year or temporarily, and those that are kind of trying to stay afloat and keep their doors open even through this period? The MCO will probably come to an end in a couple of weeks. We'll still have the problems of borders and maybe a very few incoming tourists from other countries. Could you help us understand that landscape?
Okay. Hence, moving towards about closing of hotels or hotels that are partially closing and those who are still or decided to close temporarily, right? This is all based on the cash flow management, basically. Can I survive if the condition of the business is such, running at below 25% or zero business? So a lot of hotels, what we have come across is, and as you can see, as the week goes by, and I suppose today, yesterday, we get more reports about hotels closing. And that's purely because they are not able to sustain the business. they're not able to pay salaries. They're not able to, there's just no income. The cost of operating is just too high. So they've gone into areas of either giving the staff unpaid leave for 3 months to 6 months. Some have gone on partial salaries, I mean, it's 50% or less. And some of them have actually even gone towards retrenchment or going towards a mutual separation scheme or even a VSS.
Right.
Yeah.
Halim, you talked about cash flow management as being one of the issues for why hotels have had to close. Was the pinch felt even before the MCO?
It was a build-up. The minute the COVID-19 was announced in China, which was late December onwards, we started already seeing a lot of cancellation coming through. We started seeing a lot of hotels occupancies or cancellation coming through, occupancies going down. And unfortunately, Malaysia was very dependent on the China market, especially when we talk about the tourists, right? So when China started locking down, that affected us tremendously. And usually December, January, February, we'll get a lot of European business coming across as well. For, it's winter there. They come out for a lot of sunshine here in Malaysia or in Southeast Asia. And unfortunately, when the COVID started to build up and then finally announced as a pandemic, the bulk of the cancellations started coming through in the month of February onwards.
Halim, we have just 1 minute. Sorry, we have just 1 minute. Tell us about the Prihatin package. Has it helped you, especially in terms of job retention?
Any Prihatin package will definitely help, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Yeah, you talk about minimum wage of any hotel is at least 1,200 ringgit. And based on the Prihatin package, we've got two of it, right? We've got the ERP and we have the WSP, right? The Employment Retention Program and the Subsidy Wage Program, right? So, and it's also limited to 200 employees. If you take the hotels which are large hotels, the ones which are 300 rooms and above, their manpower itself is equal to 1. The ratio is 1-to-1 at least, right? So you're talking about 300 staff, and your Prihatin is the maximum of 200 staff. And the balance of it will have to be coming from the owners or coming from the operations. So when the cash flow management is carried out, obviously you will start looking and say, okay, we're not going to be able to survive after the next 2 months, after the next 3 months, because your cash flow starts to deplete, right? So and that's where the hotels now start to go into a situation where they're making announcement to say they're ceasing operation, they're closing temporarily or until the end of the year. That's just to curb the exposure that they're getting in terms of the costs.
Right.
And
to stem the bleeding, right? To stop the bleeding, the hemorrhaging temporarily. Halim, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. We appreciate your insights, providing us a look into the hospitality industry and whether it's reached its tipping point. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, we're going to take a quick break, but after this, we'll find out how retailers are weathering the storm. So stay tuned to consider this.